Stop explaining yourself. Stop justifying every choice, every action, every word. For years, you've been giving pieces of your power away, defending decisions no one truly understands, trying to earn approval that doesn't matter. What if I told you the moment you stop, a calm washes over your mind, your focus sharpens, and your life finally feels yours again? Imagine living unshakably, without apology, without permission, fully aligned with who you are. That calm isn't passive, it's power, clarity, and freedom rolled into one. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to claim it. We spend years defending choices that don't need defending, explaining actions that only we truly understand, and trying to justify decisions that exist solely within our hearts. Each explanation we give is a piece of our energy, a fragment of our power handed away to someone else who may not even care. Imagine the weight lifted when you finally stop defending yourself against unnecessary scrutiny. Every argument you've had, every plea for understanding has pulled you away from your own life. Your energy has been spent shaping perceptions instead of creating reality. Silence doesn't mean weakness, it's a conscious reclaiming of power. By choosing not to explain, you prioritize your focus and guard your spirit. The world may question your choices, but that no longer dictates your peace. In this quiet, the mind begins to untangle from chaos. It becomes aware that your life is yours, not a performance for others. And the moment you stop explaining yourself, the chaos around you begins to quiet naturally, like the calm after a storm passes. People either accept your presence as it is, or they reveal their inability to respect your autonomy. There is a strange liberation in observing reactions without interference. You no longer need to negotiate with every criticism, every doubt, every opinion projected onto you. You recognize that everyone carries their own limitations, and their judgment is often a reflection of themselves, not you. By removing yourself from the need for constant validation, you reclaim clarity. You realize that the world's noise no longer needs to compete with your inner voice. Energy that was once wasted defending decisions now fuels creation, learning, and personal growth. The mind becomes a sanctuary and the heart a quiet space free from justification. With every choice made silently, your confidence grows stronger, impervious to unnecessary debate, and people will always try to define you, to categorize your life choices into their own framework of understanding. Society has conditioned us to seek approval, to give explanations even when none are required, and to believe our worth depends on consensus. Breaking free from this expectation is uncomfortable at first, but the discomfort signals growth. When you stop explaining, you stop participating in their system of control. You discover a power that is quiet yet unstoppable because it's rooted in truth and self-respect. Each step away from external validation strengthens the alignment between your values and your actions. You no longer bend your principles to fit someone else's narrative. The energy that once went into justifying yourself now fuels dreams, ambitions, and authentic connections. Silence becomes your language of strength, and calm becomes your new state of being. Others' opinions no longer fracture your focus, because you've learned that their approval is optional. And there is also a profound clarity in the silence. When you stop explaining yourself, you see the patterns of relationships with fresh eyes. Some people will respect the calm, recognizing your integrity without needing a word from you. Others will resist, attempting to provoke, question, or challenge, but their reactions become data, not directives. You begin to understand that the need for constant explanation is a trap that robs time, energy, and emotional stability. Each unspoken defense builds resilience and cultivates patience. You start to value the spaces in which your voice is truly needed, conserving energy for battles that matter. In this calm, you also reconnect with your instincts, discovering guidance you had ignored while performing for others. Decisions become sharper, intentions clearer, and confidence unshakable. Silence transforms from avoidance into strategy. Your life starts operating from a place of intention, not reaction, and another subtle shift occurs in the way you interact with the world. People sense when someone no longer seeks approval, and it changes how they approach you. They respond differently because the dynamic has shifted. You are no longer a participant in endless debates about who you are or what you should do. You are free to occupy space without permission. Freedom of expression is no longer conditional on acceptance. In this calm, your presence alone communicates authenticity and confidence. You realize that energy is a finite resource, and choosing to guard it is not selfish, it's essential. By giving less to the unnecessary, you give more to yourself. The more you embrace this state, the less you are swayed by criticism, gossip, or unsolicited advice. Life becomes lighter because you are no longer weighed down by the burden of explanation. And the journey to this calm is gradual, and it requires awareness. At first, the habit of explaining feels almost automatic, a reflex built over years of seeking validation. You notice yourself pausing, waiting for permission to exist, rehearsing sentences to defend decisions that no longer need defense. Breaking this pattern requires intentionality. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you reinforce a new behavior, a new rhythm of existence. It feels strange at first because it challenges deeply ingrained beliefs about respect and acceptance. Over time, it becomes natural. You start noticing the difference in your energy, your focus, and your sense of control. The act of not explaining becomes a daily practice of strength. It teaches you discernment, resilience, and the ability to navigate life without unnecessary friction. Calm emerges as a natural byproduct of consistency, and your relationships transform as well. When you stop explaining yourself, interactions become more authentic. People who matter will accept your choices without coercion, without constant justification. Those who cannot accept this reveal themselves early, sparing you future frustration. This clarity allows you to invest energy where it truly matters. Conversations shift from defense to connection, from validation to genuine exchange. You learn to honor your own voice without negating others, creating a balance that previously felt impossible. Calm isn't passivity, it's a conscious engagement with life, grounded in self-respect and integrity. You stop overextending, overexplaining, and overcompensating. Every silent boundary reinforces your value, and every choice becomes deliberate rather than reactive. The world stops controlling your narrative because you take ownership of it, and the internal landscape changes in ways that affect every area of life. With fewer distractions, mental clarity improves, and emotional stability strengthens. Stress diminishes because you no longer expend energy on unnecessary approval. You become more decisive because your choices are rooted in conviction, not fear of misunderstanding. Creativity flourishes because your mind is free from the constant noise of justifications. Productivity soars because focus is reclaimed. The calm that emerges isn't superficial. It penetrates thought, action, and emotion. Confidence becomes a quiet, unshakable undercurrent in all that you do. You start noticing opportunities you missed when consumed by explaining yourself. Each decision now carries weight, clarity, and intention, amplifying the impact of every action. And in essence, stopping explanations is an act of liberation. It allows you to inhabit your life fully, without apology or hesitation. You step out of the performative cycle of defense and into a reality where authenticity drives every move. Energy is reclaimed, boundaries are respected, and choices align with inner truth. The calm that arises is profound because it is earned through conscious detachment from unnecessary validation. Every unspoken defense, every choice to remain silent strengthens your presence. Life slows down just enough to let you notice your own growth. Peace replaces anxiety and clarity replaces doubt. Your voice becomes intentional, your actions purposeful, and your energy unfragmented. The world continues, opinions persist, but your calm is unshakable. And this shift has ripple effects that extend beyond self. People notice, even subconsciously, the energy of someone who no longer seeks validation. They approach differently, communicate more honestly, and respect boundaries without being told. Your presence alone becomes a stabilizing force in interactions that previously drained you. Silence transforms into a language of authority and integrity. Others are invited to step up, not to pull you down. The calm grows stronger with every conscious decision to not explain, not justify, not defend. Energy, once lost to argument and persuasion, is now available for growth, connection, and creation. Life feels lighter, sharper, and more aligned. And in this space, you finally recognize the value of existing without explanation, choosing presence over approval, calm over chaos, and alignment over compromise. Saying nothing is not a sign of weakness, it is a declaration of strength. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to see the power of boundaries in a new light. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate, but shields that protect your energy, focus, and clarity. Every explanation you have offered in the past chipped away at your personal space, leaving you drained and vulnerable. By choosing silence, you reclaim the authority over your own life. The world will push, question, and test, but the strength of your boundary is revealed in the calm you maintain. Each decision to remain unprovoked builds confidence and self-respect. Boundaries create a framework in which you operate freely, with intention, not apology. You start understanding that peace is a resource and guarding it is a necessary act. Silence becomes your first line of defense, your strategic move against unnecessary depletion. And every boundary you set teaches others how to treat you, whether they realize it or not. People often test limits because they sense flexibility, but the moment you stop over-explaining, they understand there is no negotiation needed. This clarity shifts the dynamics of every relationship in your life. You stop giving energy to those who drain it and start investing in connections that honor your presence. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about defining the space where your influence is healthy. By refusing to justify your choices constantly, you train yourself to act intentionally rather than reactively. You learn that your energy is finite and not every question or opinion deserves a response. Your calm is no longer fragile, dependent on approval, or shaped by perception. Instead, it becomes a consistent state rooted in self-discipline. Each boundary set quietly signals strength and unshakable resolve to the world. And the power of boundaries manifests in your work, your relationships, and your personal growth. When you stop explaining yourself, you redirect time and energy toward creation, achievement, and focus. Priorities become clear because distractions are minimized. The space previously filled with defending choices is now occupied by strategic action. You begin to notice patterns in your interactions, who respects your limits, who challenges them, and who is indifferent. This insight allows you to engage selectively and with intention. Boundaries do not isolate you from connection. They ensure that connections are meaningful, reciprocal, and respectful. You become less reactive to criticism and more responsive to opportunities. Each unspoken justification becomes a reinforcement of your autonomy. Silence in this context is not emptiness, it is a statement of purpose and alignment. And by stopping explanations, you begin to distinguish between necessary and unnecessary energy expenditure. Not every conflict requires resolution, and not every judgment demands your response. This discernment creates freedom and mental clarity. You start identifying the situations that deserve attention versus those that simply distract or drain. Your focus sharpens, and your energy stabilizes, creating momentum toward goals that truly matter. Boundaries help you reclaim authority over your narrative because you no longer allow others to shape it. You realize that your presence, actions, and results speak louder than any defense you could offer. Silence is no longer uncomfortable. It is a calculated strategy. You begin to operate from a place of calm power, observing without needing to justify, guiding without coercion. Every boundary reinforces your capacity to act decisively and live authentically. And embracing boundaries also transforms the way others perceive you. People respect those who protect their energy because it demonstrates self-worth and discipline. When you stop over-explaining, you command attention without demanding it. Others begin to approach you differently with more consideration because they sense that your time and energy are not freely given. This shifts the relationship dynamic, fostering mutual respect rather than dependency. Boundaries are lessons in self-leadership. They teach you to govern your life with clarity and intention. You begin to act in ways that align with your values, not in ways that appease or convince others. The calm that emerges from unbroken boundaries becomes a magnet for positive, constructive connections. Every interaction is measured, purposeful, and energy-conserving. Silence signals strength, creating a space where your authenticity can thrive. And the practice of not explaining yourself builds resilience in ways that explanations never can. Every time you choose calm over justification, you strengthen the ability to remain grounded under pressure. You stop being influenced by opinions that do not serve your purpose, and you learn to navigate criticism with composure. This resilience extends beyond relationships into your work, creativity, and personal growth. Decisions become more deliberate and your focus sharper because you no longer waste energy defending choices. Boundaries act as invisible armor, protecting your mental and emotional state. Over time, this armor transforms into confidence, self-trust, and clarity. You begin to notice a reduction in stress because your life is no longer dictated by external approval. Each unspoken justification consolidates your independence and fortifies your calm. You move through life with the quiet strength of someone unshaken by unnecessary interference. And boundaries also create a framework for self-respect that cannot be easily compromised. When you stop explaining, you silently affirm your values and priorities. The decision to withhold explanation is a daily practice of self-discipline and assertion. You start understanding that your energy is sacred and should not be diluted by the need for validation. This clarity allows you to operate from alignment where actions match intentions. Silence reinforces personal accountability and teaches others that your life is governed by your standards, not theirs. Each boundary becomes a silent but undeniable declaration of autonomy. You stop apologizing for existing, choosing instead to act in accordance with principles and priorities. Over time, the calm you cultivate becomes your default state. It is a power that emanates without words, commanding respect through presence alone. And the impact of boundaries extends beyond personal growth into productivity and achievement. When you stop explaining yourself, you redirect attention toward meaningful outcomes rather than superficial justifications. Work becomes more efficient, decisions more precise, and progress more consistent. Boundaries prevent distractions from hijacking focus and energy, ensuring that effort is applied where it counts. You begin to appreciate the rhythm of deliberate action. Free from the weight of external judgment, this shift allows for creativity, innovation, and consistent progress. Silence becomes a tool to maintain clarity and focus in a world that constantly demands explanation. You are no longer entangled in defensive cycles, but empowered to act from conviction. Each choice reinforced by calm and intentional boundaries strengthens the momentum toward fulfillment. The space you create becomes fertile ground for growth, achievement, and sustainable success. And ultimately, choosing not to explain yourself is an exercise in self-mastery. It demonstrates courage to live according to your principles without apology. Boundaries allow you to filter influences, interactions, and expectations with precision. Energy once squandered on defending choices is now redirected toward personal growth and purposeful action. Calm replaces chaos, focus replaces distraction, and intentionality replaces reaction. People begin to respect your presence naturally because it carries the weight of someone who values themselves. Each silent boundary reinforces inner strength, clarity, and resilience. The habit of living without explanation trains the mind to prioritize, the heart to assert, and the spirit to remain unshaken. Life becomes simpler, clearer, and more aligned. Calm is no longer fleeting. It becomes a lifestyle anchored in self-respect and unwavering focus. True validation never comes from the applause of others or the approval of those around us. It comes from within. For years, we rely on external recognition to measure our worth, giving power over our emotions to opinions that shift like the wind. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim that power and place it firmly within your control. You begin to understand that your choices do not need justification because they are aligned with your values, your vision, and your integrity. Confidence emerges not from agreement, but from alignment, and alignment is far more durable than fleeting approval. Each decision becomes a reflection of your principles rather than a response to judgment. You stop overthinking reactions and start prioritizing authenticity over acceptance. The energy that once went into defending yourself now fuels creation, growth, and clarity. Inner validation becomes a compass, guiding every action with intention and purpose. You learn to trust your instincts above the noise of others' opinions. And when you stop explaining yourself, you no longer hand others the authority to define your identity. People will always have expectations, judgments, and unsolicited advice, but their opinions no longer dictate your self-worth. You start to recognize that the need to justify is a form of self-imposed limitation. Breaking free from it allows you to operate with freedom and authenticity. Your energy shifts from reaction to action, from defense to deliberate creation. The calm that arises is not passive. It is a powerful force rooted in self-trust. Decisions that once felt heavy now feel effortless because they are made without the burden of external validation. Each moment of choice reinforces your autonomy and strengthens your inner voice. You no longer seek permission to exist, to pursue, or to grow. Life begins to feel lighter, clearer, and infinitely more intentional. And inner validation is a protective shield against the chaos of opinions and criticism. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving space for judgment to infiltrate your mind and drain your energy. You begin to distinguish between feedback that serves your growth and noise that serves only distraction. By trusting your internal compass, you cultivate resilience, patience, and clarity. You no longer rely on external sources to define success, happiness, or self-worth. Each step taken without explanation reinforces your confidence and solidifies your focus. You learn that your energy is a finite resource, too valuable to spend convincing others of your decisions. The calm you gain is a direct result of protecting this resource. Every choice rooted in self-validation multiplies your potential and sharpens your clarity. You start measuring yourself by progress and alignment, not by consensus. And the freedom from explaining yourself also transforms relationships. People who matter will recognize your authenticity without the need for constant justification. Those who cannot accept it reveal themselves early, sparing you wasted energy and false expectations. This clarity allows you to invest in connections that are genuine, reciprocal, and meaningful. Silence becomes a powerful communicator, signaling strength, clarity, and self-respect. You no longer chase approval or seek validation through conversation. Instead, your presence and actions speak volumes. Each interaction becomes intentional, guided by alignment rather than the desire to be understood. Boundaries naturally emerge, protecting your energy while fostering respect. Over time, you notice that your calm inspires others to operate from integrity as well. Authenticity becomes contagious, yet it requires no explanation. And choosing to stop explaining yourself strengthens decision-making. When your choices are no longer dictated by fear of judgment, they are informed solely by purpose, clarity, and alignment with your values. This leads to more decisive action, sharper focus, and increased productivity. The weight of unnecessary defense disappears, replaced by the power to act boldly and with confidence. You begin to notice the subtle patterns of life that were previously obscured by the need to justify. Opportunities that align with your vision become more visible, while distractions fade into irrelevance. Silence allows the mind to operate with precision, unclouded by reactive justification. Each decision made from self-trust reinforces your authority over your life. Inner validation becomes the engine of progress, powering forward movement without external approval. Your calm is both shield and accelerator, guiding every choice with clarity. And the practice of internal validation rewires the way you perceive challenges. Criticism, opposition, and misunderstanding no longer provoke panic or self-doubt. You approach difficulties with composure because your worth is no longer contingent on others' perceptions. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to test your alignment and reinforce your inner strength. You begin to rely on your instincts, judgment, and principles rather than on external affirmation. Calm arises naturally as you recognize the futility of explaining, defending, or justifying yourself. Energy that would have been lost in conflict is redirected toward innovation, growth, and creation. Each silent affirmation of your choices strengthens confidence and resilience. The mind becomes a sanctuary where clarity, focus, and alignment reign. Over time, the habit of trusting yourself becomes second nature, requiring no conscious effort to maintain. And stopping the need to explain yourself also fosters authenticity and personal growth. When you rely on inner validation, your actions reflect true intent rather than external expectation. You are free to experiment, fail, and evolve without fear of judgment. The lessons learned are internalized fully because they come from self-reflection rather than criticism. Each accomplishment feels earned, each failure a necessary step in growth, without the burden of seeking approval. The calm that comes from inner validation allows for reflection, adaptation, and strategic decision-making. You no longer expend energy managing perception. You focus solely on progress. Self-trust becomes the foundation for all personal and professional growth. Every choice, every action, and every decision reinforces alignment with your purpose. Silence becomes the framework in which authenticity thrives, unburdened by the need to justify. And the liberation of inner validation also extends into ambition and leadership. When you stop explaining yourself, your vision is no longer diluted by the need to please, convince, or appease. Goals are pursued with clarity, focus, and unwavering determination. Leadership emerges naturally when decisions are made with integrity and without apology. People gravitate toward those who operate from self-assurance rather than seeking approval. Each silent choice strengthens your authority and credibility because it signals alignment, not desperation. You learn that respect cannot be demanded. It is cultivated through consistent action and quiet confidence. The calm derived from inner validation becomes magnetic, drawing opportunities and support organically. By trusting your judgment, you create momentum that is unshakable. Every step taken without explanation fuels the trajectory of growth, influence, and achievement. And finally, embracing inner validation cultivates lasting peace and resilience. When you stop explaining yourself, the noise of the world no longer intrudes on your decision-making clarity or sense of worth. Calm becomes the default because it is rooted in self-trust rather than temporary approval. Challenges, criticism, and unpredictability are met with measured responses rather than reactive defense. Life becomes a series of intentional choices aligned with your vision and principles. Each unspoken justification becomes a reinforcement of your inner authority. Over time, this practice rewires perspective, creating a stable foundation for action, growth, and fulfillment. Silence is not emptiness. It is the arena where confidence, clarity, and resilience flourish. Every moment of self-validation strengthens calm, focus, and authenticity, enabling life to be lived fully and intentionally. Approval is the heaviest cage we willingly step into, and we often fail to recognize how much energy it consumes. For years, we bend, explain, and justify, shaping our lives around the expectations of others. Each explanation is a fragment of our power, a piece of ourselves handed away. The moment you stop, you reclaim that power entirely. Silence does not mean weakness. It signals strength, clarity, and self-respect. By refusing to seek validation, you take control of your life and choices. The calm that follows is liberating, a quiet space where decisions are rooted in purpose, not external pressure. Freedom emerges because you are no longer negotiating your worth. Life becomes lighter, sharper, and more aligned with your intentions. This calm is the foundation upon which true fulfillment is built, and it is yours to hold. And when you stop explaining yourself, you create space for authenticity to thrive. Each word not spoken in defense is energy redirected toward creation, growth, and focus. Boundaries naturally strengthen because others sense that your energy is intentional and non-negotiable. People either adapt, respect, or reveal themselves. The latter is an invaluable gift, saving you time and effort. Living without constant justification teaches self-trust, courage, and clarity. Your presence becomes magnetic, drawing relationships and opportunities that honor your essence. Every interaction transforms into a conscious choice rather than an obligation to explain. Peace arises from the understanding that your life is yours to govern. Calm is no longer fleeting. It is a deliberate state anchored in inner authority. In choosing not to explain, you demonstrate that your life is governed by principles, not opinions. And the act of not explaining yourself allows you to navigate life with precision. Decisions that once felt heavy now feel effortless because they are made from alignment with values and vision. Energy previously wasted defending choices now fuels ambition, creativity, and impact. Opportunities become visible because the mind is uncluttered by the weight of unnecessary justification. You start noticing patterns, people, and situations with clarity that was impossible under the burden of approval seeking. Confidence grows naturally as you realize that silence communicates far more than words ever could. Calm becomes a source of power rather than a passive state. Each deliberate choice reinforces independence and resilience. By acting without apology, you influence your world through integrity rather than persuasion. This is the freedom that comes from prioritizing self-respect above external validation, a gift to your future self. And stopping the need for explanation transforms relationships and interactions. People respond differently when they recognize that your presence is not conditional. You no longer participate in cycles of approval seeking or defense. Boundaries protect your energy while fostering respect, trust, and authenticity. Connections become purposeful rather than performative, genuine rather than obligatory. Others learn through your calm how to approach, communicate, and collaborate with integrity. Silence becomes a language of strength that resonates louder than words. You discover that influence comes from consistency, not justification. Every interaction reinforces your values and autonomy. This calm creates a ripple effect, encouraging others to operate from authenticity without demanding compromise. Living unapologetically allows both personal peace and meaningful connection to coexist. And the liberation of living without explanation also strengthens resilience and focus. Criticism, misunderstanding, and resistance no longer provoke panic or doubt. Challenges become opportunities to test alignment and reinforce inner authority. Decisions are made with confidence because they are informed by principles rather than opinion. The calm that results is strategic, not passive, creating a clear path for progress and achievement. Energy that was previously scattered is now concentrated on purposeful action. Each silent affirmation of your choices fortifies clarity, courage, and self-trust. The mind becomes a sanctuary for creation rather than a battlefield of defense. You learn that peace is a resource to be guarded, cultivated, and expanded. Calm is not a temporary respite. It is the engine of your consistent personal and professional growth. And living without explanation allows for exponential personal growth. By relying on self-validation, you cultivate independence, courage, and self-awareness. Failures and successes are internalized and processed without the need for external justification. Lessons are absorbed fully because they are interpreted through reflection rather than criticism. The calm that follows creates mental space for innovation, strategy, and creativity. You begin to focus on outcomes that matter, aligning actions with long-term vision rather than short-term approval. Each deliberate decision reinforces purpose and reduces distraction. Freedom becomes habitual, creating momentum in all aspects of life. Silence empowers reflection and clarity, making each choice more intentional and impactful. This is the power of unbroken calm. It is fertile ground for growth that cannot be influenced by judgment or expectation. And inner validation also strengthens ambition and leadership. Goals pursued without the need for approval are executed with clarity, efficiency, and confidence. Leadership emerges naturally from integrity, courage, and calm authority. People are drawn to those who act decisively without seeking permission, and influence grows organically. Each decision made silently communicates strength, alignment, and vision. You no longer expend energy convincing others, allowing focus to remain on results. Calm becomes a magnetic force that attracts opportunities and collaboration. Boundaries ensure that influence is wielded purposefully, not chaotically. Leadership rooted in inner validation is sustainable because it is not dependent on external recognition. The freedom of unshakable calm enables you to act boldly and inspire without compromise. And finally, choosing not to explain yourself creates a lasting sense of peace and fulfillment. The noise of judgment, expectation, and scrutiny no longer disrupts clarity or confidence. Each choice reflects alignment, purpose, and authenticity. Energy is preserved and redirected toward what truly matters. Calm becomes a permanent foundation, supporting growth, achievement, and well-being. Silence is no longer empty. It is a strategic force that protects and amplifies your power. Boundaries become a natural extension of your inner authority. Relationships, work, and personal development thrive within this clarity. Each unspoken justification reinforces strength, focus, and resilience. Living unapologetically allows you to cultivate a life of true freedom, calm, and self-determined fulfillment.